So now it's your turn to come up with your own curriculums. What I'd like for you to do now is take out your planning sheet. There's a unit planning sheet. It's got an orange top, I think. It's in your packets. So I was a teacher myself for many years. I taught in private schools, and I taught in suburban and urban public schools in Providence and New Hampshire and Ohio. And one thing I always hated was when people told me how to plan, right? Because I had my own way of planning that I was pretty happy with, and so when somebody would tell me I have to do it a certain way, it kind of drove me crazy. So this sheet, I'm not telling you you have to do it this way. This is just a helpful guide if you're working with a team and you quickly need a common vocabulary and this seems to work for you all, use it. If it doesn't work for you all, don't use it, okay? One way of planning might be to work with this. This is the traditional sort of planning backwards model. We developed it over the last 20 years with teachers. We use this in my school. My teachers have developed it. They've refined it so that it's really simple and really easy to use. They use it for all of their curriculums in our school. Basically, with this unit plan, they plan sort of a 6-week unit with this, and with about 4 or 5 of these, they have their whole year mapped out for a subject area, and sometimes for an interdisciplinary subject area. Another way to plan could be taking the performance cycle and just taking a book and planning with the performance cycle. What building community activity am I going to do? What entering text am I going to do? What comprehension am I going to do? What creating am I going to do? What performing am I going to do? This is more for like a week or a 6-week or a 4-week or a 2-week unit plan. Or if you want to, it's helpful, plan with just the performance cycle. Either way you want to go is good, okay? Or if you've got another way, do it. So this time's meant to be helpful for you. So you take what we've done today and you use it in your classroom. You're not doing this as an activity, right? You're doing it so you can have something you can use. The great thing is there's a lot of ideas at the tables, so you're going to help each other out in planning. Let's think about, here's where I start. So in sharing this with you, I'm sharing with you my process that I use in putting together workshops, my process I use as a teacher, and the process my teachers use as a school, and that we found most beneficial for us. What I almost always start with is anchor texts, and you know this by now. A really, really, really good text, and you might have a lot of text. You've got a stack of them at the table around this theme. Just to let you know, so if you want to go more with a makerspace building idea, Papa's Mechanical Fish, right? This is a dad who builds a submarine. It's based on a true story. We got Roxaboxen. If you want to head off in the architecture area, you can use The Big Orange Splot, a great book that's been around since 1972, I think, somewhere around there. It's about building a house. So one curriculum I've seen teachers do is, it's not here, is it here? No. Where's the Big Orange Splot? You see it there, guys? Hold it up if you got it. It's about having kids design a house. Each house is different. Each house represents houses in the community. You could have your kids design a house, make their own house, put them on the wall, and then you can move to Roxaboxen, which is designing a community and a city. We've actually at our school built a whole city with cardboard boxes. So they put all their houses in the city, they make them out of cardboard, they paint them, and then they do things like the hospital and they plan the whole city. You can go with Makerspace, magnificent idea, and what do you do with an idea? A magnificent thing, and what do you do with an idea? This is a girl who's trying to build something. She keeps messing up, and it's about failure and working through your mistakes, persistence, having a sense of grit, being okay with not getting things right, and to keep trying. What do you do with an idea? This is also about the same idea. You've got an idea, you don't quite know what to do with it. There's another book like this called What Do You Do with a Problem? Both are kind of really nice to fit together with this makerspace theme. If you're doing the house one, If I Built a House, it's his idea of a dream house. Also goes well with the Orange Splot, building a house. This is a classic book that I use. I've done many institutes with this one, Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. It's the best interdisciplinary book I've ever seen in my life. There's an elementary school version, a chapter book, kids version, and a New York Times best-selling adult version. High school, middle school, elementary school. Starts off with great stories about Africa. You can teach social studies, culture, Africa, and storytelling. Then goes to a famine in Africa, world resources, social studies, how economics are distributed, and then he builds a windmill to create electricity for his family, so you get all the energy, physics themes, building engineering stuff with this one. And it's a true story. He actually we did this in Florida, and he came to Florida and visited classrooms. William Kakwamba, great guy. He graduated from Dartmouth, came from Africa, graduated from Dartmouth, and runs his own windmill building company for building sustainable windmills in Africa. Videos you can see online too, so the kids can meet him online and stuff like that. Some books right there. So anyway, these are some great books to use, but cool anchor texts are important, but you don't just have to do that theme. Here are some we've done in the past. Ada's Ideas, Ada Lovelace. Several books about her. You could do algorithms and computers and technology with that. Use it for algorithms and math, algebra classes. We're close again. I don't know why we're having that problem. Oh, there we go. Before she was Harriet's Institute, I'm doing next week in Andover. If you're doing idea of slavery, abolition, Harriet Tubman, great book, history book. Here we have Harlem's Little Blackbird. Again, it's about an African-American woman in the 1920s who became a famous opera singer, and her story. Manfish, Jacques Cousteau, we mentioned that one. Great for oceanography, any kind of study of the ocean. Videography, video making, because he's Jacques Cousteau. He made movies about the underwater world. You got Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, we just talked about. Another great book, The Curious Garden, I mentioned to you guys. A city that doesn't have a garden, and he ends up getting the whole city to plant gardens. We saw an image from that already. And this is a great one for the cosmos and stars. The story of Carl Sagan, star stuff for elementary school students, and great for if you're doing the planets or you're doing stuff like that. All of those are good books. A few more to think about are The Watcher, Jane Goodall. I picked a lot of more science books because we've been doing a lot of humanities stuff. Where the Wild Things Are, we mentioned, right? The classic story. It's beautiful to do this work with. The story, all the stuff we did yesterday with sculptures and stuff, amazing with Where the Wild Things Are. You can also have the kids make their own wild things, draw their own wild things, create their own wild things with different materials. Ollie's Odyssey, William Joyce, great chapter book. I've seen first grade teachers do it as a read aloud to the kids, where they read every day, and it can be used all the way up to, middle school, kids reading a great chapter book. Malala's Magic Pencil. It's kind of like Harold and the Purple Crayon, but it's more socially oriented. Malala Yousafzai is a real person. Remember, if you know her, she was shot by the Taliban, and at the age of 19, she gave a speech in front of the United Nations about the rights for all women in the world. That will bring you to tears if you watch that online. Show it to your kids. Teach them Malala's Magic Pencil, and it's about how the words can be used for social change. And finally, Frida, we use a lot in Mexico, but also when we do more culturally related, the story of Frida Kahlo. And this is a beautiful version by Jonah Winter that can work in terms of art making, in terms of women's biography. It's a great book. So, that's all. So what you're going to do first is you're going to figure out what is our text. What focal text do we want, okay? Then with your text, you're going to figure out what is your essential question. Okay, so there's essential question. So what's an essential question? An essential question, we've mentioned it already, is a big open-ended question that can hold a lot of books. It can hold a big theme together. Here are a couple things to think about for an essential question. A great essential question applies to any age. It can be used equally for adults, college students, and kindergartners, right? It leads to exploration and inquiry. It's one that you really want to talk about and explore. You actually never arrive at an answer. Like, how does weather work? What is weather? What's in the universe? You won't answer that question with your kids. It's for exploration. It inspires more questions. What's in the universe? What are stars? What are planets? What's a black hole? It's about big ideas. Where are we in the universe? Is there other human life in the universe? And it often fosters interdisciplinary connections, right? How can we build a windmill, or how can we build a windmill to provide energy to our community? It makes you want to explore math and science and all kinds of stuff. Here's some examples. An essential question is, we often do classroom rules. Question over here is not an essential question. What are our classroom rules? It's one you might ask at the beginning of the year. It's a great question. You need to ask it if you're going to set up your classroom rules, but it's not an essential question. An essential question would be, in what ways do laws help us as a society or oppress us? right? So you can take something on like speed limits. Are speed limits good? Are we allowed to go 10 miles per hour over the speed limit? Is that an okay thing to do? Do we really have to obey the speed limit? Why do we have speed limits? What should they be? Essential question, how do animals' bodies and behaviors help them to survive? There's some answers there, but there's a lot of guessing, like we look at a cat or we look at a bat. Why are they made the way that they're made? How have they developed that way? What are the characteristics of a mammal? Great question. You need to answer the science curriculum, not an essential question. It's got a right answer. Essential question for math. What steps did you follow to get your answer? That's not one. What steps did you follow to get your answer? Here's what I did, then here's what I did, then here's what I did, then here's what I did. Great question, not an essential question. Essential question in math, what do effective problem solvers do when they get stuck? Can have a lot of different answers, right? Depending on the student and how they solve problems and how you solve problems. Essential question for arts and social studies. One that's not an essential question, but a great question is what common artistic symbols were used by the Incas and the Mayans? So indigenous cultures, ancient cultures had symbols, right, for their alphabets. What are they? What do they mean? Great question, great thing to explore, not an essential question. Essential question is how do the arts shape as well as reflect a culture? For maybe upper level students, and lower level students too. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put you in teams. You're going to choose your text, and to get you going, you're going to develop several possible essential questions. Not just one, but 4 or 5 of them based on your text. So for instance, if you're going to do these texts that I mentioned, maker spaces and building stuff, what's several essential questions you can come up with? So we're going to do that this morning first, and then I'm going to let you launch into planning. But that's our first step. Choose your text and come up with several essential questions for your text. Now first, we got to get you into teams, right? Are you already in logical teams or not? Yes. Okay, so a team should be working on something common, right? So if you're all already situated by grade levels at your tables more or less, that's a start. But your team should be working on a curriculum in common that you can use. So you got somebody to work with and you're not just sitting there alone today working by yourself, right? So what you need to figure out at your table, you may have a pair be a team, and say, we really want to focus on the Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. We want to build a curriculum for our first graders around that. And then the other 2 people at the table might be, well, we're doing Ada Twist and Lovelace. And the other 2 people might be, well, I'm taking a Wonders thing, Biblioboro, and we're going to do the Wonders story, Biblioboro, and build a thing around that. And that's okay. But I do want you to organize into teams, even for the purpose of today. Even if you're developing a curriculum you may not use, just to be in a team to work together, okay? Can we do that? Can I give you, are you there yet or no? No. Okay, so let me give you 5 minutes first to figure out what teams you're going to be on, and then I'll check in with you. Once you're in a team, get a point person for each of your teams, okay? A point person for each of your teams so I know, okay? Just choose a point person. Go for that right now. I'll go. Let me get everybody over here for a second, please, just for a second. I want to launch you. You may have already gotten there. Some of you are deep into the unit planning. That's good, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Everybody's got a text now, right? Everybody's got essential questions, and I looked over them, and they're all wonderful. They're all really good essential questions. How can an idea change the world? Right? Working with the text, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, Rosie Revere, engineer. What determines who you are? That's a big question, right? Wonderful question. What is an idea? What can your ideas do for you? Are all ideas wonderful? What makes people keep trying even after they fail? If you could build your own house using your imagination, what unique features would you design in your house? That's a really specific one, but still very open-ended, really interesting. Why are facing obstacles important in life? How can you get what you want or need without money? Focusing, I know, on Galimoto and recycling and using repurposed materials. So, up here, right, unit title, that's obvious. Developed by whoever's putting it together, grade level, date, that's all obvious. Broad description, just a quick description of what you're doing. That's kind of your big idea, what you're focused on. Essential questions, that's what you just did, and meaningful texts. If you only have one text, that's great, but you can add more text to your theme too. Once you get an idea like that, once you get an essential question, you'll find texts from your group will really start to connect. You can say, what other text do we have? So you can build it as big as you want, up to a whole semester if you want. Learning goals. These are both stuff you have to teach. You know, asking questions of the text, author's purpose, to stuff you want to teach. I really want my kids to support each other in the classroom. I want my kids to all give each other a sense of belonging. I want them to be able to collaborate. You can put that kind of stuff there too. Don't fill it with numbers of standards, like I'm going to do these 50 standards during this unit. Choose so that it's really clear for you and for your kids what the one skill is or two skills you want them really to learn. Exhibition of learning. This is the thing that's a little tougher, and we'll talk about this after lunch. Actually, let's do it now. Exhibitions of learning is how are the kids going to show their understanding? It's for a real audience. It's a cordell of maps. It's a performance of the big events of the book. It's a shadow puppet performance. It doesn't have to be arts related. It's building your own little toy and exhibiting it in the room in a gallery exhibition with a piece of writing about why my toy is important. It's that final culminating bigger event for a real audience. It's the thing that you're not doing necessarily just for the grade. You might have a lot of little assessments going up to that. You might do some thinking routines. You might do a little vocabulary thing. You have little assessments going along the way, but it's the big thing at the end. It's what makes the students remember it many years from now. Hey, I remember making that toy when I was in first grade, you know? So it's that special, it's the kind of things we've been doing along the way here. You know, the performance we put together yesterday, the map making exhibit, and even the little performance we did, just the sharing of your own little thing with the cordell on the first day. Those are the kinds of exhibitions, right? So think about what your exhibition of learning will be. Then we come to, these are basically the activities, and you can just do them any way you want. Here are all this stuff, and you may go pages and pages and pages with this, right, of activities we do. Again, now that you've done the performance cycle, you can think of the performance cycle as we're going to do the whole semester as a performance cycle, or we're going to do a performance cycle with every book. And you can plan like that if you want to, too. It's a nice way to think about it, okay? Questions about that? So now move on. You may have already done that. If you haven't done that, move on to all of this stuff to plan. And I want to just share this with you because now's a crucial time to know about this stuff. If you go to your agenda with all the activities, I shared this with one group, but not all of you have seen this. Look what we have for you here. If you go to that agenda, you'll see websites. My email is not one of them. Here's one of them, right? This is the Arts Literacy website, our handbook. You click on all of these and you get activities. This is not a stick, and here's how to do it, right? Okay, and that's the one I told you about. I know, see you guys looking through the book. The book came out 6 years ago. This has 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times as many things as in the book, plus all the stuff in the book. Okay, so use it, and a bunch of those are point of concentration activities we didn't do. We did some of these. Human atoms there, energy pass. We didn't do names and gestures. We didn't do the truth about me. We didn't know if you knew me, you would know. We didn't do whoosh bang. Oh, that's a good one. We should do that. We didn't do zip zap zop. We did the 3-part handshake. And there's even like you'll see a couple that aren't in there. We did toe, elbow, high five, right? Where you become a big group. And there's more in there of the process if you want to really, really sort of make it bigger. So use that, okay, in your planning. Another website that might be useful for you is this one. So this is my blog. And here I write about education practice. You get the full picture of what a unit can look like with a book, right? So I document different big scale units that teachers do and that we do. This is a cool one. This is a great one, Black Panther and Me. This was in the 6th grade classroom. I worked in 6th grade classrooms in Boston, and we ended up having the kids create masks that were avatars for themselves, right? And here they are with their masks. We did that in a 90-minute class. And you can read all about that. All right? 6th graders. And so that's if you want to like really get deep, right? That's not just activities, that's full-scale documented experiences. Another website that might be useful for you is Ablas, where we have the school. We have there best practice handbooks. So for instance, you can download the Cordell here, PDF, and you get a full Cordell. The story of the Cordell, how to do it in your classroom, and you get that with several best practice activities. Finally, while we're here, I'll just show you one more. If you want to join us, this is the ABLA Teacher Institute site, and we have experiences like this where you can come into Merida or Chicago and do this for a whole week with some of the best educators in the world. They join me and we facilitate together. So those are 2 big experiences that I'm sure your principals will be willing to pay for. Just ask them, tell them you want to go to Mexico right near Cancun and do a professional development experience. But a lot of teachers do come. We'd love to have you, right? All right, everybody, I'll let you get back to planning. I want to show you some resources and keep you moving, okay? Thanks, everyone.